Have you ever felt stuck between working towards your goals and dreams and trying to stay true to God's plan for your life? What if I told you that setting realistic expectations isn't about giving up on those goals and dreams, but it's about trusting that God's plan for your life is so much more than you can ever imagine. Welcome, beautiful friend. I'm Shanina. Let's pursue joy and peace together. We're going to talk about how balancing your expectations with God's plan can lead to something far greater than you could ever imagine. Set boundaries to protect your energy and purpose. As women, we often want to do it all and help everyone. But when we don't set boundaries, we can often end up drained and overwhelmed. Your energy is kind of like a glass of water. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your purpose, you're pouring out a little bit of that water. And if you're constantly pouring out your water without refilling your cup, it's eventually going to run dry. Setting boundaries is like refilling your glass. It's not selfish. It's necessary for you to stay full and ready to pour into the things that God's called you to and that truly matter. In Matthew 11:28, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." By setting healthy boundaries, we create a space to listen for His guidance. We protect the energy and focus for the calling that He's placed upon our lives, and we rest when we need it. What's one area of your life where you're saying yes too much? It could be work, volunteering, or even social commitments. This week, I want you to try to say no to something that drains you, and instead use that time to rest, pray, and reflect and focus on what God has called you to in your life. Remember that it's okay to say no to things that are not part of your purpose. Now, if you need more help in setting boundaries that are healthy, I encourage you to check out the book Boundaries by John Townsend and Henry Cloud. Excellent read. I'll leave a link for that below if you want to check it out. Set realistic goals and trust God's timing. Maybe it's just me, but when we set goals, sometimes we focus mainly on the destination and what we want to accomplish instead of enjoying the journey along the way. You can kind of think of it like your life like a road trip. When you're setting out on a road trip, you don't expect it to get there in one giant leap. No, you put your GPS on, look at the route, you plan for stops along the way, and you take it 1 mile at a time. Along the way, there might be detours and delays, maybe more bathroom breaks than you expected, or changes in your route. But each turn, each mile that you take is getting you closer to your final destination. And similarly, when setting realistic expectations, it's great to plan your route, but you also need to trust that each small step that you're taking in your life is getting you closer to where God is leading you to be. Proverbs 16:9 tells us, "In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." Friend, God's timing and plan are perfect. And while we may want everything to work out right now the way we want it, we can trust that God is leading us to our final destination, one small step at a time. What's one major goal or task that you're currently working towards? This week, instead of focusing on the big picture, I want you to focus on completing one small portion of that task. And then I want you to celebrate your progress and remember that the journey is just as important as the final destination. Trust God's plan even when it feels unclear. I've told you before that I love to do jigsaw puzzles. When you bring out that box the first time, you see all the scattered pieces and you think, how is this ever gonna fit together? It really feels unclear and it can be overwhelming at first a bit. But when you start to put the pieces together one piece at a time, the picture slowly begins to come into focus. Sometimes our life feels like this puzzle. As we walk along the journey of life and we try to trust God's plan, we're given these pieces that we put into place and we're thinking, I don't know how this is all going to fit together. But we can trust that God is pulling that bigger puzzle piece of our life and He's creating a beautiful masterpiece of it. When things feel unclear, it's easy to get frustrated or want to take control. But when this happens, we can rest in the words of Psalm 139:16. They say, "Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Maybe you're like me and it's kind of hard to understand or even fathom that God has already planned out all the steps that you're going to take. And even in the moments of uncertainty or hard times in your life, you can trust that He's putting all of the pieces together in His perfect timing and plan. What areas of your life feel uncertain or confusing? Instead of trying to focus on the things that you can't control, I want you to focus on one small thing that you can do today to move forward. And I want you to trust that God sees the bigger picture of your life and He's putting all the pieces into place. I have one more thing to share with you, but I'd love to ask, if this has been helpful, would you mind hitting that like button? It'll just help spread this to others looking for the same encouragement. Be willing to adjust and grow through changes. Have you ever trimmed a plant in your yard? Maybe you have a rose bush. For me, it's trees that I have. And I remember the first time I ever went to go trim it or prune it, whatever you want to call it. It felt really weird to cut off perfectly good branches of the tree. But I knew in order for it to go stronger and to bloom healthier and be more beautiful every year, that pruning needed to take place. It's the same with our lives. Sometimes God allows us to go through difficult seasons to cut back those things that are not helping us grow. And it might not feel good in the moment. Strike that. It doesn't feel good in the moment. But that cutting back can be exactly what we need to step into something better. In John 15:2, Jesus says this: He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, He prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. The truth is this, friend. Some of our biggest growth happens in those pruning seasons, times when we're tested and stretched and we feel disappointed. But remember that branch in the tree that I cut off that looked perfectly normal, seemingly fine? God does the same in our lives. He refines us and cuts off the things that don't need to be there so that we can be exactly who He's called us to be. What's one area of your life where it feels like you're being cut back right now? Maybe it's a change that you didn't choose or a door that's being closed. I've been there and it's so hard. But instead of seeing it as a setback, ask God how He might be growing you through this situation. Pray about it with Him, journal through it, or even talk to a trusted friend. And just like that tree that I trimmed the branch on, know that He's preparing you for more growth than you could see right now. Setting realistic expectations isn't about giving up hope. It's making space for God to move in His perfect timing. So don't give up, friend. Take one small step today, trust Him with the rest, and keep showing up. I promise you won't regret it.